Well guys, as you probably saw in the last video, we bought my wife a BMW X5M. So I wanted to give you guys kind of an intro video, an initial review, and kind of go over the car a little bit more for those of you who don't know what it is. So this is an E70. That means it is the 2010 to 2013 X5M. They made X5s before that, I believe starting all the way back in 2007 is when the E70 generation started. But this is the facelift of that. So when they got to 2010, they facelifted the chassis, and all X5Ms are of a facelift. To make it an M, it's got different suspension, it's got enormous brakes, a bunch of different revisions, whether it's got those little side vents or the front fascia is different. And the main thing is the engine is different. So the base car has the N63 and this has the S63, which means it has 550 horsepower, it has 500 foot-pounds of torque, and it is insane. It is a twin turbo 4.4 liter V8, same as the N63. It's just more boost, more of everything. It'll get the car to 60 in the low 4-second range, and it will get through the quarter mile in the high 12s, low 13s. I've seen some different numbers from different sources, but we will test that ourselves when we get it to the drag strip. Like all X5s, it is all-wheel drive. You can see the torque distribution on a screen in the car, which is pretty cool. It has 275s in the front and 315s in the rear, which is obviously enormous. We played with it a little bit on the way home when we picked it up, and I've been driving it over the past couple weeks and really enjoying it. It is very fast. I've seen my wife driving it around when we were trying to sell her other car. It looks very menacing. You know, watching it drive down the street, it looks like a very cool car. Even someone who doesn't like cars can probably tell this one is a little bit different. As I went over in the last video, the car has been slightly modified, so he's blacked out a lot of the trim. It's got F85 rotors on it, which are drilled instead of the blanks. We have switched back to the factory wheels, as you can see, and we are going to be putting the wheel spacers back on when we get wheel studs in. Those have been ordered, but for right now it is just running the factory wheel by itself. It has been lowered 3 inches. It's got H&R springs in the front, and then you adjust the air suspension in the back. But so far it has been pretty tastefully modified now that we are back on the factory wheels. In the next video we'll be going over what our modification plans are. We'll recap all of the modifications the car has had. So like you can see the laser headlights on the front, it's got the LEDs instead of the older style headlights, and the cool thing about those is they move as you turn the wheel. So if you're going around a turn, it will turn the lights to help you see what is around that turn and the direction you're going. So it is a really cool system. But I'll give you kind of a run through of the car. We're going to look at interior, exterior, things that I like about the car. It's got a lot of neat features on it, so we'll run through those really quickly, and then we'll drive it around. I'll give you some driving impressions, and then of course we will do some fun driving as well. So this is the heart of the beast. This is the S63. As you can see, I have the engine cover permanently removed because this is where your turbos are sitting, generating a lot of heat, and so I don't want that trapped under here and heating up all these hoses and wires and keeping them hot. We will eventually be installing a turbo blanket on top of the turbos. For those of you who don't know, this is a hot V engine. This is the first engine to utilize a hot V, so it means the turbos are stuck inside the V of the engine, and the air flows in it through reverse, so it flows in through the sides of the heads, and the exhaust ports are on the inside of the V, flow through the turbos. You go through all of your intercoolers up here in the front, which are air-to-water intercoolers, and then go back into the engine. So it shortens your piping to the turbos. It makes it easier to get the downpipes out the back. It just makes all of your packaging a lot easier, and it helps with throttle response. So it's very common now, but this is the first engine to utilize that in a production car. So a lot of cool tech under this hood. It doesn't sound great, but again, we're going to address that in the future. But a very, very cool engine with a lot of power potential. Hopefully we're going to be, in the mid 600s by the time we're done with it. As already mentioned, this car has enormous brakes. I believe they're 15.5-inch rotors in the front. I could be wrong on that, but that's about where they're at. They are enormous. They fill up that entire 20-inch rim, so it's a pretty impressive braking system. They feel great. I don't notice any drawbacks to them, but I mean, when you hit the brakes, they really do slow the car down quickly. Unfortunately, you can't really see the caliper right now because it's black, but we will be addressing that in the future. Now, of course, we did buy this because it's an SUV. We bought it because it was practical. We bought it because it had a lot of benefits. So it's nice that we can open up the rear tailgate. It opens on its own. It's a split tailgate. So as we go over here, I can open and pop this down. So it's nice to be able to open the rear tailgate and just have that up, and you can still have things in here and you can unload. So if you've got an unsteady load, you can sit in here. You've got the BMW mat in here, so I don't have to worry about getting the carpet dirty. It has this amazing little storage area under here. So I've got toolkit, I've got some towels, I've got my extra toolkit in there, a big full-size umbrella. You can fit a lot of stuff underneath this. You lose it if you get the third row seating, but it's a really nice feature that I enjoy a lot. And then of course, I mean, yes, you could sit on this, you could do things with this with camping. So I think it's a really nice idea to have it split like this. It's got a nice little straps on either side. You've got a sliding little rail system so you can tie things down. It's got this little cover which you can spread out here. So it's a very, very nice back, very practical. You can fold all three seats down to go perfectly flat, and you have a nice big, you know, full cargo area, but you can fill stuff in. I can fit a 10-foot board in here if I want to, if I just put towels on stuff. Very, very practical car. So we'll move on to the back seat, which is enormous. You can see we have the dog hammock back here so that we can easily get our dogs in and out and not worry about them messing up any of the leather seating. But you have a ton of leg room if you look down here. So no, I am not the biggest human being in the world, but you can see I am 5'10", and I have a ton of room here with it adjusted for me in the front. So with two of me in here, you have a ton of room. You could fit somebody that is over 6 feet tall in here, and they would still have a ton of room, front and rear. It is a huge car. The rear seats are heated and the front seats are heated. That's obviously an option, but it's really nice that I can comfortably put my parents back here. They can have heated seats. They have their own controls for their heat and the cooling. So it's going to be a nice place for them to be. It's going to be comfortable. It's just as luxurious back here as it is in the front of the car. And I'll obviously talk about this when we're driving around, but the front seats are very comfortable, very roomy. Everything is easy to reach. The center console, once you remove the little extra phone charger that no one's ever going to use, you have a ton of room in there. You've got some nice storage up here, nice big cup holders. The doors have a lot of storage in them, and you'll see a specific review later on the Avon system. So it is kind of like a hybrid of the F85 system, an Android screen, and the E70 system. But even if you have the factory screen, it's still really nice. You can see everything you need to do. You have navigation, radio, all sorts of different connectivity through your phone, or you can store music on it. So it's a really nice system. But like I said, I bought this car because not only was it going to be a fun car to drive, but it's safe, it's luxurious, it's roomy, it's practical. It does everything we wanted to do. We have a ton of room in the back for passengers, a ton of room in the back for storage. You can fit our dogs in it. You can fit probably a full mattress in the back if we wanted to go camping with it. It's very safe, so it's got those great headlights. It's got great brakes. It's going to handle really well. It's got a lot of tires, so you can avoid issues in the road. You're not going to have to worry about, you know, slamming on the brakes faster than the person in front of you. As long as you notice it, you should stop faster than they do. And then of course, if you do get in an accident, the crash rating on this is 4 or 5 stars in every category. So it's a very, very safe vehicle. So let's move on to the driving portion of the review. The car is actually surprisingly smooth, especially for an M car. It's not as smooth as like a regular X5 would be, or even something like a 5 Series or a 7 Series. The air suspension in the back does a really good job of controlling body roll and of controlling minor bumps, but at the same time the car does have those H&R lowering springs in the front, so I'm not sure how it's going to compare to regular suspension. And because the airbags in the back are 3 inches lower than normal, I also don't know how that's going to compare to regular suspension. So this is more applicable to people who have the H&R springs or are looking at them. I have no complaints about them at all. I don't think the car does well for speed humps. Like here's one right now, is exiting the neighborhood, and it kind of crashes over it on the other side. But other than that, small bumps in the road, it does really, really well, especially because I'm not running on run flats. We're running on regular tires. If we get a flat, we'll deal with it, but it's not worth it to run flats the whole time for me and go through that horrible hard sidewall and all of that, just for the one time that you might get a catastrophic failure on your tire, which in all my years of driving and my wife's years of driving, I've never had that happen. So I just don't think it's worth it. It's a problem you can deal with it when it comes along, is kind of how I'm approaching that. But it rides really well, rides really smooth. So once we get out of the neighborhood, we can do a little bit more of some regular driving. We drove last night to Savannah and back, so that's about a 2-hour drive each way. It was pouring rain. The car did great. The headlights are really bright. The car rides really smoothly. It's very comfortable. The seats, you do not get sore at all in these seats. They're extremely comfortable, but they're also holding you in place well. Now, I mean, I could be a little bit bigger and sit nicely in these bolsters, and the bolsters are adjustable. However, I don't know how it would fit someone who's much larger than me because I can't really simulate that. So, again, you have to sit in one and find out, but I think these seats are extremely comfortable. They have a lot of different adjustment in them, so you can really tailor them to how you want them to be. But overall, a very nice driving car, very nice place to be. The steering wheel feels really nice in your hand. All the controls are easy to get to and pretty intuitive. A lot of people don't like this early iDrive, but 10 minutes with it, as long as you're young and kind of savvy, it's no issue at all, especially with this newer Avon screen. And then, of course, the main reason you buy this car is because it is an SUV that, for whatever reason, is really, really fast. And it does that well. We'll go to a little bit of a hidden spot so I can do a launch, but it is very fast. I haven't really gotten it up too high in the speeds. I haven't even gotten over 100 miles an hour yet because A, I don't really have any reason to. It's really fun up to 60 and 70, so like, you know, why get a really ridiculous ticket in this car, A? And B, we'll take it to the drag strip and we'll take it to the track later, so I don't see any reason in getting a ticket that's going to cost me $250 when I can do a track day for $250. So we'll take it out, we'll have some fun with it, I promise. I was told by the previous owner that it does really, really well even up to 150, which is where he took it to. So hopefully we'll get it up to some higher speeds later, maybe it's something like Road Atlanta. We'll just see. I don't really have any negatives about this car. I don't have a ton of different experience in something like the Mercedes or Audi equivalent of this car, and I didn't research or look into F85s at all. For me, the price difference did not justify what I was probably going to get from the interior of the car and from the engine and all that. It really isn't a huge jump to the F85. The only thing that I really miss that the F85 has is it has the 8-speed transmission instead of a 6-speed transmission, which I think is going to help you not only in acceleration by a little bit more of an aggressive first gear, but it could also help you with a better overdrive, so you might get a little better gas mileage. So, you know, I didn't look into them that much. I can't really help you if you're comparing the two. I would still go for this one again just because it's a solid $10,000 to $20,000 cheaper. And, you know, maybe looking at the F85s in a couple of years, sure, you know, they're going to come down and depreciate just like this one did, and it'll be a different story. But with this Avon screen, which looks just like the F85 screen, and the performance this car offers, I really don't see a justification for going F85 unless you just really like how it looks differently, or you're really big in all the different little safety features it has, like lane departure and things like that. I just don't see the price justification. But complaints, as far as that goes, the only complaints are the obvious things of like it gets 17 miles a gallon, or it's big. Well, it's an SUV, all SUVs are big. So any of the negatives of the car are really obvious. There's nothing that it does that I don't like or that I can't fix. So there's small things like it runs hot because that's just how BMW has the thermostat set. Well, we're going to change that out. So anything on here that's a little bit weird or that I don't like, I can fix. So it's not something that I'm concerned about. And of course, if you guys see this and you see it in the future and you want to ask me a question, of course you can ask this down below and see if there's something that we've come across that we don't like. But for an initial review, I have no complaints. I love it. It's amazing. I think the best feature of the car is it has a split personality. You can drive it around normal. You can give the keys to your grandma or someone who doesn't know anything about cars, and they're not going to know, but it has 550 horsepower. There's nothing really that overtly gives it away. I had a friend who kind of knows stuff about cars, and he had no idea what this car was until I told him, and then he started to put the pieces together of noticing all the little accents. So it can be a normal, docile daily driver, and then you can flip it over into sport, and you can hit the M button, and it'll turn into a complete monster. So it really just depends on what you want out of a car, what you're planning to do with the car. You can drive it like a monster every day, or you can drive it comfortably back and forth to work, and then when you get the opportunity, you can let it loose, which is what we're going to do in just a second. hope you guys enjoyed that kind of driver's point of view, so you can see the heads-up display that M Mode provides. It's a really cool feature. Allows you to keep your eyes on the road. I'm really excited to try it out on track, so I can kind of keep track of what gear I'm in and what I'm doing. It's just a really cool feature. But the thing I like about this car so much is there's nothing on here that says, there's no law that says that I can't get to the speed limit quickly as long as I'm doing it safely. Because I have all-wheel drive and everything is really kind of under control. It just accelerates effortlessly. It's like a freight train. It just does it all so calmly. So the speed limit on the road we're about to pull onto is 60 miles an hour. So I'm just gonna, give it all it's got until 60 and then settle in. So one more time. It's so much fun. I mean, it just effortlessly just gains speed. It's like no other car I've ever driven. I have driven quite a few fast cars when I worked at a really big luxury dealership after college. I got to drive a lot of different things, a lot of different fast cars, a lot of different Porsches and Mercedes and all sorts of things. It really does gain speed in a way that I can't describe. I feel like this is kind of what they're talking about with electric cars, except even more aggressive. So, of course, if you guys have any questions about this car, of course, feel free to ask those. You can just drop them in the comments below. The longer that you wait, the longer this video is up, the more information I can give you because I've driven it longer. So, again, hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys next week.